Hello everyone, welcome back to another edition of VAFA Tragics. It's good to have your company. I hope you're still with us. We've had a bit of a sabbatical, but it's great to have this man back at the desk. Welcome, Nick Armistead. How are you?
I'm very well, Lenny, and how are you, mate? Good to see you.
Good to see you. I didn't know if you'd be coming back at all.
Well, there were a few thoughts over the past couple of weeks as maybe I wouldn't. It was such a good time, obviously, over in England, but it's great to be back, at the desk, and it's a pretty important time of the year, so I thought I might make the trip back just for finals.
Yeah, so Ashes, how'd you find it?
It was incredible.
Bucket list item?
It was top 3 bucket list for sure. We went to Lords and
Were you at Headingley Day 4?
No, so we went to the first 2 days, and then day 3 was the day that we obviously capitulated. Ben Stokes.
No, day 4.
So I was at 2 and 3 then,
yeah.
and then day
4.
Day 4. So we thought we had it in the bag especially after day 3. Obviously the first session.
Just got to skittle the last 5 wickets.
There were 2 Aussie blokes sitting amongst about 200 English blokes, and we were flying, skittling for 67.
So where'd you watch it? In a pub?
Yeah. So I was in Scotland on the 4th day, and I was at the castle, and I got a message off my mate. He goes, "Mate, are you watching this? Like they're half a chance here." And so I got to the nearest pub. And there was about another probably 100 English blokes in there and just me, and I was like, "Oh, this could be dangerous." And then it came 60 runs, 50 runs. You just thought he's going to do this.
We butchered it.
We absolutely butchered it. The review, dropped catches, the run out opportunity, absolutely butchered it. And I could not have got out of that pub quicker as soon as
really?
that was
Are they heckling?
Oh, they were bad.
Yeah,
it was
so
good.
they were aware you were Australian. You were sort of.
I made the mistake of we took probably the 7th and 8th wicket, and I got up and about. And there was dead silence.
How many pints deep were you at that stage?
I was a few pints
deep.
Yeah.
Always an error. Always an error. We better talk some VAFA footy. There's been a lot going on. Yeah. Obviously, we've finished the Premier sections this weekend. We've had finals on the weekend. So talking about butchering it, did Old Geelong butcher it possibly?
You would have to say so. What a win by Caulfield, first and foremost, and how good are they looking? But losing 6%, Old Geelong.
So if they don't lose by that much, they potentially still stay up.
Yes, they're about 5.5%, 6% down.
Yep.
Parkdale going into that game. Parkdale obviously lost.
Yep.
But they obviously got.
Parkdale almost beat Blacks as well.
Yeah, they did. It was only that last quarter.
Plenty of footy to talk about. Let's kick off with your highlight from the round of VAFA footy.
So first of all, I want to go to this mark. So I just want to show this photo that went around on Twitter on the weekend. Michael Viney's photo of Stephen Fitzgerald's mark for Marcel on the weekend. One of the all-time great photos you were going to see. I think the VAFA Media Awards might be run and done right there. But I also want to touch on Ivan Delac, who's the president of Glen Ira, and a message he wrote to the Hawthorn Amateur Football Club on their Facebook page on the weekend, just about Paddy Clancy and how he was in awe and respect of Pat and what he does for the club. And I just think that's a brilliant thing from one president to another, one club to another, and just shows the strength of our association.
Yeah, Clancy's been so good at Hawthorn Amateur Footy Club for a long time, running right through from David to Pat. They're doing a great job there. It is great to see. You mentioned the four screamers. Did you say four screamers? Four screamers. Well, you mentioned Fitzgerald screamers. So you've seen the photo. Let's roll the videotape because we had just a plethora of speckies on the weekend. So the first up, we have Tom Humphrey for D. Larcell taking an absolute ripper, launching himself. He's no stranger to taking a big hanger, is he, Tom Humphrey?
No, he can time it quite well.
I enjoy this one from Sam Parsons as well. He has gone back with a flight. He's got Chopper coming out of the goal square. It's no mean feat to stare Chopper down as he's running towards you and go back with a flight and take a ripping mark for collegians. Ben Hart, the former old Camberwell player, his club also had a bad weekend going relegated, but he's now playing for Monash Blues. He's taken a bit of a pack mark here, which is I really enjoyed this one. But you've mentioned the Stephen Fitzgerald photo. We've seen the photo. Here's the footage. Absolute ripper. I think this is the pick of the bunch.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. He has got some serious air on that one. You reckon that's a mark of the year contender?
Oh, from what we've seen so far this year, it's right up there. I think anytime you're one out and you can go one-on-one and you're launching off one player and getting it in the hands, it's all there for the taking.
He'd be happy with that too. He's got the photo and the footage as well.
Well, the photo, so Michael Viney's photo you mentioned there, that's your dream. If you're photographing footy, to nail a specky. I mean, the only way it gets a bit better is you get it front on rather than from behind. He's got it from the behind angle. But great footy moments from the weekend.
It is.
Let's look at William Buck Premier section. Huge ramifications for a number of sides, particularly Collegians and Old Brighton going into the weekend trying to battle a Final Four spot. And at the other end of the ladder, Old Trinity and De La Salle. Where do you want to start?
Well, I love Trinity De La Salle. So we love that relegation battle. And we spoke probably 4 weeks ago. We said things go the way they're going at the moment, this is probably going to come down to round 18. And as it did, they were both on 4 wins, I think, and the winner was going to stay up. And what a game it was from Trinity. Both teams had 26 scoring shots, but De La Salle kicked 7 goals, 19. So really kicked themselves out of that one, unfortunately. Polo, who's had a pretty good year, had 3 majors, and Jack Hunt, who had 32 disposals. He had a fantastic end to the year. But now De La returned to Premier B for the first time in 14 years.
It's amazing how it can turn. I heard Brian Waldron in the pre-match talking with the RSN Carnival team, talking about how Trinity last year were preliminary finalists, then battling relegation. The previous year it was Uni Blues battling relegation, and now they're playing in a second semi-final this week. So it can swing and turn.
Correct.
The ability to hang on and stay up a grade is really vital, and so Trinity might be able to launch from next year. De La Salle got to start again in Premier B. Collegians, let's go to Old Brighton and Carey first, because the ramifications for this game were Brighton win, Collegians lose, Brighton are in the 4. They were up against it though. Carey was saying goodbye to their coach Michael Tarrant. They were 12 goals straight at one stage, Old Carey, and they led by 17 at 3/4 time. It was a fantastic celebration because they'd had a really tough year, the Panthers, and they were looking on track to record only their second win, their first since round 1. And then Old Brighton turned it on the last.
And you'd have to say Brighton were probably the second form team of the competition coming into round 18, the way they were playing. But as you said, trailing by 17 at 3/4 time, 7 goals straight in that final term, allowed the Tunners to swamp Carey and briefly place themselves inside the 4 before, obviously, what happened at Toorak Park happened. Zimmer was fantastic. Pavley was fantastic with 59 combined disposals. And Christian Jacks, who's had a pretty good year when he's been in, had 5 goals straight.
Yeah, he did. Carey's goal kicking was unbelievable. Great to see the Brighton players clapping Carey off. They return to Premier B and they'll go again. I think that's their 3rd relegation in about a 6-year period. They're bouncing back and forward between Premier Section and Premier B.
But even in terms of their young players, I mean, their 19s were successful a few years ago, but even in terms of the nominations they've had for their rising stars this year, they've had the most of any club alongside with Trinity. So the future is super bright there. They just need to get a few more years and a few more games into these
Probably
boys.
hang on for 1 year in Premier B before they launch again, if
correct.
they can. The other game you mentioned, Collegians and Old Zaverians. Collegians have pipped Old Zavs by a goal at Toorak Park, and that put them back in the 4.
And they led by 31 at half-time. So Zavs came hard, and we know Zavs haven't been in the greatest form in recent weeks, but clearly they hit some form in that last quarter, or that last half, with 8 goals to 4. Boucher, though, kicked 4 goals, from Viv Mitchell kicked had 28 disposals. The Lions, though, now, they were facing not even being in the 4. They sit 3rd, and because they've surpassed Scob, who now sit 4th. So now we've got an elimination final between the 2 grand finalists over the past 2 years. It's
going to be a fascinating battle, that game. Collegians and St Kevin's in that first elimination final. St Kevin's, you mentioned them, they went down to St Bernard's, who found a bit of form in the last few weeks of the year, but I suppose they didn't have a lot to play for. They couldn't go up, they couldn't really, they were a mathematical chance for the 4, but were never probably really going to make it. They bid farewell to Mark Bomarelli, who coached them to a flag in Premier B.
They did. It's a bit sad with all
and
these retirements. Yeah, Michael, player as well. More than 200 games for Michelangelo. He's been fantastic down back for them. Hopefully it wasn't the last game that we saw Adam Bentic. No one really knows, and Tom Caven as well. No one really knows at the moment. Again. I reckon listening to him on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, when we had the player takeover, it sounded like he'll probably go again.
The carrot of being a club games record holder at the club, I think, is there.
100%. But what about Bentic? Potentially his last game, but 48 disposals and 21 clearances. Unbelievable.
So that's senior club records holder. He said he's got no chance, when I spoke to him, of beating the actual club games record holder. I'm not sure it's like 500 games or something like that. These blokes that keep playing
just
until their 50s. OMs and Uni Blues was the other game, William Buck Premier, just to wrap it all up. They bid farewell to the longest serving coach I reckon I've been aware of in the VAFA. 8 years for Nathan Brown at OMs.
Outstanding service to the club and to the association from Nathan Brown. We would have heard him in the pre-game. He's been absolutely outstanding, and it was great to see the OMs boys send him off with win. I think it was 2 or 3 in a row they've now won, and it was good to see our boy Jackson Payne kick 5 goals. Now Uni enter. They've still won the minor premiership, but they've entered finals having lost 8 of their past 9 A-grade Premier finals. Is that a monkey?
It's a concern. I think we see this a lot with clubs. I think in recent years, Old Scotch had that record in finals in Premier Section. I think St Kevin's had that record for a long time. I think they went about 8 or 9 finals in a row without a win. So it happens. It just takes 1 year to break the shackles on that, though. I'm not sure how with Uni Blues how they've lost that many finals in a row. Didn't they win a Premier B flag? along the way?
That's A grade.
Oh, yeah, great.
A-grade.
Right,
A-grade
in
finals.
Premier section, right, let's have a look at Premier B, speaking of. The 4 is set. Caulfield Grammarians secured their spot on top of the table with a huge win over Old Geelong, which sent the Ogs back to Premier C after only one season. Old Scotch, second place. Blacks of third, and Beaumaris have held on to fourth.
They've held on to fourth, but they're facing a little bit of a nervous wait there because Fitzroy got over the top of them on the weekend. And what a win from Fitzroy. They had to win to stay up. Sonny Brazier kicked 4 goals in the first quarter, and Donovan Tui was best on ground. But despite the loss, as I said, Bowie held on to fourth, and now they'll face the Blacks, who are in a fair bit of form, the Blacks, this weekend. So that'll be a great game.
Having said that, Parkdale, who are also potentially playing for their lives in Premier B, took it right up to Blacks at Jerry Green and only got rolled by a couple of goals. So Blacks in good form, but,
Yep,
I suppose when you're playing for your life,
Parkdale playing for their life. That's exactly it.
they've hung on anyway, Parkdale, so the Vultures will get another crack in Premier B. Old Haileybury sent Monash Blues back to Premier C. Monash Blues have had a really tough couple of years in Premier B, so probably time to recharge in Premier C.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, remember what they did last year? I think they lost their first 9 on the trot or something, but still stayed up. So it was fantastic effort from them. Obviously another tough year, only the 4 wins this year. But Old Haileybury hit a bit of form in the second half of the year, so it's not surprising. So hopefully, as you said, Blues can find some form and retain all their players going into next season.
Yep. In Premier C, the 4 is set. It's Willie versus Ormond in the second semi-final, and Ajax will play Old Ivanhoe. Williamstown continue their march to an undefeated season.
The first since St Kevin's in 2015, potentially. Whitefriars are also in that boat as well this year, but they've been absolutely phenomenal this season. Williamstown, obviously, with what happened last year, going out in straight sets by a total of 4 or 5 points in their 2 finals, but 10 goals to 1 in the opening half really set the scene, and Jack Noonan, who's a fantastic young player, kicked 4 goals. So they've now played Ormond, but they've beaten them by 104 and 59 points in the 2 meetings that they've had so far this season.
Yeah, write your own ticket, Williamstown. You'll be in Premier B next year
for the first
time with a win in that second semi, I reckon, over the Monders. The Monders didn't do themselves any favours in terms of building confidence, going down to the Jackers in their final round game by 39 at the EE Gun. So at home, so they've lost a bit of go about them at the moment.
They have lost a little bit of momentum, but Ajax have found a lot of momentum after winning one of their first 5 games under Adam Andrews. Ajax have now finished the season in 3rd after winning their last 7 on the trot, so they'd really fancy their chances against Old Ivanhoe this weekend.
They certainly will. Old Ivanhoe had a good win over Pegs. Pegs go down, albeit so Pegs have bid farewell to Premier C. They go to Division 1 next year, as do Old Camberwell, who've hung on in Premier C for a long time.
They have. Old Camberwell have been just in the middle tier. We've talked about it a little bit, not quite finals, not quite relegation. So hopefully they can go back, get a few wins under the belt. And
great to see Rovers hang on in Premier C as well with a good 3-point win over Old Mentonians. We'll take a break. It's been a huge first segment. We've got a lot to get through still. We're going to have a little quick preview of the finals, and then we'll come back with all of the good things that we've liked in social media over the past few weeks.
Anytime is the right time to get fit at Anytime Fitness. Access over 400 gyms across the country 24/7 and discover why more Australians train at Anytime Fitness than any other gym. Go online and register now for your free 7-day pass and feel something better.
Welcome back to the Tragics. It's 21 degrees today, the day that we're recording this show, of course. It might not be that way this weekend, a bit of ugly weather predicted, but it is finals fever.
It certainly wasn't 21 on the weekend from what I'm told, mate. It was bucking down, man, particularly on Sunday.
Yeah, Saturday was a beautiful day.
Oh, well, hopefully we get a little bit more of that this weekend.
Let's have a quick look at the division finals and the results out of that and the ramifications there. So Preston played UHSVU at Elstonwick Park on the weekend. The Bullants have won.
They've won and they're through to Premier C. It's unbelievable.
I'm sure you're going to ask some questions about that in the big questions.
I may just.
Great result though. UHSVU will hang on. They're going to take on Peninsula, who defeated Q.
Yeah, that is a big upset. We say upset, but Peninsula have probably played elimination finals for the past 4 weeks since we spoke about it, and we said they had probably had the toughest run home. They've just kept winning. They're flying at the moment, and they really fancy their chances this weekend.
In Division 2, Whitefriars defeated Brunswick. We'll talk about the margin in the big questions as well. It was a massive win for them.
Ugly.
And they're on track for an undefeated flag as well if they can keep going.
Yes, they are. They are flying.
Brunswick will play Melbourne High School Old Boys after they rolled Glen Ira from 4th spot. They snuck in the Unicorns and they've had a good win. Div 3, Aquinas have defeated Manningham Cobras. The Cobras will take on Emmaus St Leo's, the Animals, who defeated Canterbury in their elimination final. While in Division 4, St Francis Xavier defeated Albert Park. And Albert Park will play Elsternwick, who rolled Latrobe Uni in that elimination final.
Yeah, Elsternwick, they've found some form in the second half of the year, but probably the best thing out of that is that St Francis sort of might look beatable. It's only 14 points over Albert Park.
All the same, St Francis, Aquinas, Whitefriars and Preston all get promoted, which is
Huge.
Great for that competition. Let's have a quick look at the Premier Section finals, get a quick prediction. Let's start with Premier C. I did mention we've got Willie versus Ormond. Who are you going with in that second semi?
Williamstown, I think, are through to Premier B for the first time. And a little bit of me wants them to.
Yeah, absolutely.
You never say anyone's your favourite, really. Well, I don't anyway. But you would love to see that.
Ajax versus Old Ivanhoe?
Interesting one, because Old Ivanhoe, as we know, can really turn it on. But I just think after winning 7 in a row, leading into finals, Ajax are the form side.
So the Jackers and Willie, or Jackers then to go to a prelim, Willie to get to Premier B for the first time. Ormond, I reckon, got relegated from Premier B about 2010. It was probably the last time that they were in Premier B. Would have been their last year there. So they're playing to try and get back there as well. In Premier B, Caulfield, Old Scotch. This is a bit of a contest that we're looking forward to, I think.
Yeah, huge. They went 1-1 throughout the season, these two sides, but obviously with what happened on the weekend, Caulfield kicking 220-odd points, Old Scotch probably not being in the strongest form, but I still think that Scotch can bring it up to Caulfield. So I still think Scotch are slight favourites overall, although Caulfield, I think, should probably win this one through the grand final.
Blacks and Beau Morris. Probably Blacks,
Yeah.
given the way Bowie's going with their form at the moment.
You would have to say so. It was always going to be interesting to see who made it out of Bowie and St Bede's, and it's great to see Bowie get up there because they're so young, but I think Black will just have too much experience.
In William Buck Premier, it is Old Zavs and Uni Blues in the second semi, followed by the first semi of St Kevin's and Collegians. Which way are you leaning? Blues and Zavs are on the Saturday.
Yep.
Collegians and St Kevin's on the Sunday.
I think Blues will win through on the Saturday. You wouldn't be surprised either way, but they've been in better form than Zavs over the past 4 or 5 weeks. But the one on Sunday is obviously the one I'm really looking forward to, the grand final replay. In a lot of respects, these two sides have last 3 times they've met in finals, no more than 7 points have separated the two. So Collegians are actually in a lot better form at the moment, but we know what Scob can do come finals. My only concern for Scob is that who they might have available, or more to the point, who they might not have available.
Scob potentially saying farewell to any champions of their team?
Well, yeah, we do know that it's Plugger Lynch's final year, so if they do lose, it will also be his final game. So hopefully not.
Good luck on the weekend. We
Weeks.
hope for the best result for you, and also to those Collegians players that are in a bit of form at the moment.
Okay.
We'll take a break. We'll come back, wrap up the big questions and social media after this. Welcome back to the Tragics. Time now for a bit of social media. There's been lots happening, to be fair.
Heaps.
I did want to mention Canteen Gate off the top. You had something about that quickly, because I know we've been doing tuck shop trials and things like that.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about this.
Just look at this tweet from Matty Cosgrave, the president of Zavs on the weekend. He's a big fan of the show, big fan of the broadcast, and he was just tweeting about canteens, and he just thought that maybe there should be some regulations put in place about clubs and what they have to actually provide. I don't think it was too impressed wherever he was on the weekend with the what was supplied at the canteen, but from what I've heard is that whatever was supplied sold out really quick due to the large crowd. So that's what I'm putting it down to. But it was good to see him tweeting about Canteen Gate, given how we've approached the topic this year.
Certainly appreciate that. Best use of social media. I enjoyed this. I think my mate Chris Neal, who's used to be a correspondent for the amateur football, obviously a
I went to uni with him.
Preston Bullant himself. He's hot on social media, and he's delivered this from Snacks. Nick DeAndre from Preston Bullant's kicking this beautiful goal in the pocket.
Absolutely beautiful, and it's what you talk about most weeks, that you just love the people that get their phones out.
I thought, show us a bit of vision
Do it.
from a different angle. Great stuff.
For me, I want to go back a couple of weeks. I've got a couple. So first of all, we know that the women's grand finals were a couple of weeks ago. And
Congratulations to all the premiers. We sort of haven't touched on that.
no, we haven't, but Alicia obviously touched on it over the
Yep.
past few weeks. Yarra Old Grammarians have done the old classic, a few of them, and they've gone and got premiership tattoos, a few of them. So take a look at this. They've got the Bush Ranger helmet on their ankles, on their legs, that sort of thing. But my main one, counting down to it all year, Harrison Coe from St Francis Xavier kicked his 100th goal and becomes the first player to do so since Dale Collins in 2015 at Westbourne Grammarians. So congratulations to Harrison. Great to see all the boys. And that's more camera action, more phone action.
Chad Jones did it last year?
Yep.
2 years ago?
First in Division 4. Good memory, Nico.
We had him on the desk talking about it.
We absolutely did. So the first in Division 4 though, and it was just great to see all the boys run onto the ground and get around him. I told you I'd be rusty today.
Let's get into the quick questions. Nick, has there been a more dominant performance in finals than what Whitefriars did to Brunswick, winning by 140 odd points?
No, there absolutely has not been. We went into this game thinking that maybe Brunswick could knock Whitefriars off for the first time this year. You just had a feeling that potentially they could. I know Piggers definitely thought they could. Well, Christian Height and his boys absolutely put paid to any suggestion that they were going to lose first final, because 143 points is one of the most dominant performances you will ever see in finals. Lenny, I want to go to you. Is Preston, is their rise to Premier C since 2011 the best that we've seen since St Bede's Mentone Tigers in the mid-2000s?
Depends on what you say best. So it's St Bede's Mentone Tigers came up with 3 flags in the top 3 sections, which I don't think, unless it gets matched, it won't be beaten.
Correct.
As in terms of rises. In terms of rises up multiple grades, I think you've got Williamstown, who've done an amazing job coming up the sections. Peninsula did a pretty good job early in their going. De La Salle did it in the early 90s. So we're talking, and Old Carey as well, went from D2 to Premier section in about 6 years as well. So
I think Q as well.
Did a great rise from Division 4 up to about Premier C. They got to Q. So it's a pretty good rise though.
It's a pretty good
particularly with the same coach at the helm.
Correct.
I think he'd be longer than Nathan Brown, wouldn't he? If he goes next year, George Waken?
Yeah, he would be. He'll take the mantle now.
Exactly right, George Waken. Congratulations to Preston Plants as well.
Lenny, I'm going to you.
Yep.
Can Emmaus St Leo's upset Manningham?
Yes, they can.
Big
You don't believe so?
I don't think so. To be perfect,
I just think it's a final. It's a chance to get promoted.
Anything could happen.
Exactly right. I just don't think you can say, unless you're a Whitefriars, possibly a Williamstown, possibly a Caulfield, if they lose to Scotch somehow. Caulfield, I think, would win the prelim regardless if if they got beaten somehow to Old Scotch. But yeah, I think every other game is a 50-50 game.
Is up for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Is St Francis Xavier bulletproof in Division 4? They defeated Albert Park by just 14 in a 30-point turnaround.
So I don't think they are. I genuinely don't think they are. Alston Wick are in form. Albert Park have been in some pretty good form and obviously led them by 16 points at half-time. So they would have got a little bit nervous. My only concern for the other two sides against St Francis is that now that they've had that close game, maybe St Francis would have learnt a few things. Harrison Coe kicks 7 goals. He might kick 17 next time they play. Who knows? But it'll be interesting to see. I don't think they're bulletproof, but they're certainly favourites.
Enjoy the finals this weekend, Nick. You'll be better for the run, I feel, next time.
I cannot wait.
I think this week just easing into it. When you find yesterday.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, a bit tiring. Good to see you again. Good to see you back. Enjoy the footy finals wherever you are this weekend. Enjoy your footy trips and pre-season off if you're out of contention now. We'll see you next time on the Tragics.